In this tutorial, we're going to use Photoshop CC 2020 to go over Classroom in a Book Chapter 2, which is about basic photo corrections. So you can see the one here on the top. It's kind of dingy, kind of crooked, has an extra person in it. So we're going to use the tools in Photoshop to correct and change that photo a little bit. So let's go ahead and go to open our start file. So File, Open. I'm going to go to my Lesson 2 and grab that start file. My start file is already right here, so we're going to grab Start and say Open. So always get in the habit of taking a peek at what we have going on. Let's go Image, Image Size. So we can see that this image is 9 by 9 inches square and 240 pixels resolution. We can bump that up to 300 if we want. Because this is a class assignment, I'm not too worried, but I do want you to get in that habit of working on those things. Let's go ahead and say OK. So if we look at the image itself, we see it's got some problems. We see a big crease down the middle. It's crooked, it's got a border, it's kind of dingy and gross looking. Let's do a File, Save As. Let's go for first initial, last name. Alright, first initial, last name, underscore, Photoshop, Classroom in a Book, Chapter 2, and let's save it as a PSD. And I already have one of these, so we will just save over that. And say Save. Wow, that's loud. Alright, so let's go ahead and work on straightening and cleaning up these images. When you are working on images, there's basically a order of effects. You want to duplicate it just in case there's a problem, which is why we do the Save As. We're going to look at the resolution, which we did. Next we want to do is crop, then remove color cast. We're going to play with the contrast. We're going to repair the flaws. We're going to adjust the color and sharpen the image. It's kind of the sequence of events you want to go through each time. So we check the resolution. Next thing we want to do is go through and straighten and crop it. So let's go into our, let's make sure we're all in the same one. Let's go to Window, Workspace, and let's look at, do we want Essentials? I think we want Essentials. Just want to make sure that we're all in the same place. Wow, that's fun. Let's take that off. Alright, let's go ahead and take a peek. Let's go ahead and go for Essentials. So Workspace, Essentials. Alright, now we're in Workspace Essentials. Let's go ahead and grab our crop tool over here. Within our crop tool, we're going to do a few things at once. We're going to change the width, the height, the resolution, and we're going to straighten it all at the same time. So in this first one, we want to make sure we have width, WH, resolution chosen. We want to make sure that we are going for 7 inches for the width, and we want 7 inches for the height. And we're going to go ahead and take that resolution down to 200. So you can do this in the crop as well as in the other as well. So let's go ahead and grab our straighten image. With straighten, we're basically going to tell it what is straight, what should we consider straight. So we're going to drag a line from this part all the way to this part and let go and see how it automatically straightens that out for us. We want to go ahead and trim that white border off. So we can pull down, slide up a little bit, slide around till we get it. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. You can also use those arrow keys to help slide things around. Slide that. I am pretty happy with it. We want to make sure that we are deleting the extra pixels. So let's go ahead and delete cropped pixels, which means anything that's outside of here is going to disappear. So you want to choose that if it's definitely something you know you're not going to need the outside of later. So when we're happy with it, we're going to go ahead and push check. And it's going to go through and do that for us. So if you look right now at the bottom, you can see your dimensions. I've got 7 by 7 by 200 pixels, which is what exactly what we had in that we wanted. Let's do a Control S and save what we've got so far. Next, let's go ahead and play with some of our tone and our color. So I'm going to zoom in so you can kind of see the tone is kind of gross. I'm going to close that one up. Let's go to Adjustments, and we want to go ahead and do a curves adjustment. So let's go ahead and grab the third one over on the top row. And we want to basically tell it what is white. So we're going to go to the fourth tool down. It's an eyedropper with white. And we're going to go ahead and click on what we think should be white. So notice how it automatically goes, okay, if that's white, then everything should change this way. We could also go over here on her shirt or here. I kind of like this one better. So I think it came out a little bit nicer. Whoa, too white. So it's kind of your call. I'm going to Control Plus. How about we try right here on her, on the sailor dress. All right, so now I've corrected the tone a little bit. We've picked and made that different. All right, so let's go ahead and add a levels adjustment as well. So let's go to Adjustments. Let's come here to Levels, which is the second one over. And we're going to see a histogram. So you can see with your histogram, I'm going to slide this over, you can adjust the darks and the lights. So what makes dark, dark, and light, light. For this one, let's go ahead and make the first one about 15. The second one at 0.5. Whoa, that got really dark. And this one at 255. Not sure I love that. So let's try and drag that mid-tone down to 0.9 instead. There we go, a little bit better. So you can kind of see as you adjust these things back and forth, you'll get different looks and feel. So let's go ahead, and when we're happy with it, let's go ahead and flatten the image that we have so far so that we're only dealing with one item. So on my levels one, I'm going to right click and say flatten image. So now I'm going to be down to having one nice clean image. We're happy with that so far. Do a Control S and save that. Let's go ahead and try playing with our spot healing brush. Spot healing brush can be your very best friend. It's about the middle. It looks like a band-aid with a little lasso. I'm going to Control Plus so we can kind of see we've got those errors here. I can use that spot healing brush to heal this. I want to make sure that content aware is checked because I want it to sample from what's around it. And you can see just by clicking, small amounts of clicks, how you can change that. Now I want you to notice that on your history, every time you hit spot healing brush, it's going to create a history state. So if you only have about 50 of these, it's going to make it so you can't go back very far. So let's go to Edit, come down here to Preferences. Let's come down to Performance and make sure your history states is turned up as high as it can go. On a Mac, you want to make sure that you go under Photoshop and Preferences. There we go. History states, I've got mine bounced up as high as it'll go because I know that every single time I use that spot healing, it is going to create a history state. So let's go ahead and get rid of the rest of those problems. You can see a difference between if you drag versus just clicking. So it kind of depends on what you want to do. Sometimes you might want to vary the size of your brush. Remember, you can always use the square brackets next to the P. The bigger the brush, the more area it's kind of looking at. So if I do that, I get kind of a weird thing going on. So maybe I don't want it quite like that. Let's go ahead and do minus. Let's fix this little part right here. Now I'll come fix this one. So now it's not crooked. So before, when I had the bigger brush, it went kind of crooked. All right, let's go ahead and finish fixing that. All right, you're also going to notice there's a lot of what we call JPEG artifacts. We're going to go ahead and fix those later. There's a little tiny, let's see, colored dots in here from scanning. We will go ahead and clean those up in a little bit. But right now we want to make sure we've got all the spot healing done. I grab my space bar in my hand. There's a little tiny hair up here. Oh, we might have gotten rid of it when we played with the tones. There might be a little hair. I don't really see it. I think we got rid of it. So that works in our favor. Yay! I think we're okay. Alright, so I'm going to zoom out. Hair disappeared when we fixed the tones and levels, so that's a good thing. If you didn't get rid of it, there might be a little tiny hair there you can get rid of. All right, so let's go ahead and do a Control S and save what we have so far. And now we want to go ahead and play a little bit more. We want to get rid of this other person in our picture. So they're not part of our family, they're in the way. So we want to get rid of them. We want to go ahead and use the patch tool to do that. So we're going to go into Tools under this Spot Healing. There's a patch tool. With the patch tool, we want to make sure that we've got our structure is 4 and our type is content aware, which means we want it to match where we're going to look at. 1 means be really loose, 7 means be really strict. So let's go ahead and drag the patch tool around the boy and his shadow. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does work better if you do a pretty tight selection. So let's go ahead and draw around him. And if you don't get this the first time, it's okay. You can always go back. Alright, so I'm going to close my path. Now what I'm going to do is drag my selection to the left. So I'm going to take him and drag him, which means it's going to replace it with what is next to it. So see how I'm going here? It's picking up a little too far. So we want to make sure that what we pick up makes sense, that you do it as straight as possible so we aren't getting weird, extra little weird things. So notice how I didn't do a great job on his shadow. So I've got a little bit of shadow to do there. I do Control D, it will deselect. So it's not perfect, but definitely did a pretty good job of getting rid of it. So let's go ahead and deselect, which we did, and do a Control S. Now let's fix a few areas with the clone stamp. So we kind of have a little bit of a problem going here. So we want to fix it so you can't see this jump the way it is right now. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the clone stamp tool. It's not under your patch. Go down a few more. You want clone stamp tool. With that, we want about a 60, size 60 brush. And we want our hardness to be about 30. And let's click out onto our bar to go there. And we want to make sure aligned is selected. So we want to make sure that it goes in a straight line. So now we want to Alt click or Option click the part that we want to use as a source point, the part that we want to use as the good part. So you want to change, I'm going to make it a little bit, they've got it that big. Okay, so I'm going to hit Alt and click. And now as I drag, it's going to copy what is underneath. Didn't quite work. Let's try again. Alright, let's Alt and click. So we've got our source. And now we're going to go ahead and click. Oh, now it's working. And going straight along. That's kind of ugly. I don't like that. Let's undo. Alright, let me make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to zoom in so I can see a little bit more. Use that space bar to move around. Alt, click, which means make this my source point. If I hold Shift and drag across, it will go in exactly a straight line. Not quite perfect. Let's go ahead and Alt click here again. It's moving, but I'm not super happy with it. So what else can we do instead? Let's try going the other way. What if we try starting here, Alt click here. That's slightly better. Let's try Alt click again. It's not my favorite. So if you hate what you did, you can always go back with your clone stamp and start over. Go back in your history and let's try it one more time. So let's grab that clone stamp, make sure we're in the clone stamp, and make sure we Alt click to get a sample. We've got aligned is checked. Alright, so we want to go ahead and let's click up here this time. Alt click up here and kind of bring it along this way. I didn't see anything happen. Did you see anything happen? Let's go here. Go back again. Just not happy with how it's looking. Let's try one more time. All right. Alt, click, and drag. So you can see it is doing something. Alt, click, and drag that way. All right, so I don't love it, but I don't want to spend forever messing with it. Let's go ahead and we could fix the bottom as well. So let's go down to the bottom. And it's not too bad. It's not awful right here. So let's go ahead and grab a point up here. Let's Alt click and go ahead and make sure aligned is turned off. And kind of straighten out the bottom of that wall a little bit. All right, not terrible. All right, let's go ahead and do smaller brush if we want to touch up more of the stones in the wall at this point. I'm not too worried. Let's go ahead and do a Control S and save. All right, any other adjustments we feel like we need to make, we can. You could take your spot healing at this point. And maybe you want to heal part of this, blend it in a little bit more. So it's kind of up to you as to how obvious you want it to be. And part of it depends on that first content aware as well. So maybe you want to get rid of that line altogether so it doesn't look exactly the same. All right, so at least it's different than the other one. Control minus, scroll out. All right, so what else could you do? You could take your clone stamp. We could try this. I don't know if it's going to work. And make it really big. We're going to Alt click right here. And Alt click it right over there. And kind of bring over that texture from here over to there. So you can see you've got a lot of different ways to play with those images. Let's go ahead and sharpen our image before we finish. Let's do Control S and save. So let's scroll in so we can see kind of those color dots on his shirt. Let's go to Filter. Let's come down here to Noise. Come down to Dust and Scratches. We want to go ahead and ask it to take dust and scratches out. So it's a radius of 1 and a threshold of 0. We're happy with that. We say OK. And see how it's gone through and taken out all those little bright spots that we don't want. Let's go to Filter. Come down to Sharpen. And let's go to Smart Sharpen. All right, so with Smart Sharpen, we want to make sure we can see what's going on, so make sure your preview is turned on so you can see what's happening. We want to make sure we want to remove a lens blur. We want to drag it to about 60% or so you can kind of see in your preview what's going on. So let's go ahead and change it to 60. Let's take that radius to about 1.5. And we should be okay. So let's Control zoom out back to 100%. And it's not bad. Not bad for a photo that started out looking pretty awful. So is it a perfect copy restoration? No. Would I tell you to spend more time on it? Absolutely. For this assignment, will it get you through? Yep, you will. All right, so let's go ahead and do a Control S and save, and this is what you will turn in for this one. Good luck with your photo corrections.